what we've learned or what we've discovered over the past few years is that the long-term effects of a lot of these good-intentioned products and services are not the impacts that we want to have in the world. So whether we're talking about products that have an environmental impact, products that have a social impact, products that just aren't needed and are wasteful, the design and technology industry has a lot of, I think, self-reflection to do about the future of what we make and how we are going to engage with the world and with society going forward. And so I really believe that the prevailing ethos of design and technology must change, that we must adopt new mindsets. If we want to shape a better future through design, it means that we have to make deliberate choices starting today, and we need to shift our mindset. So the traditional human-centered design mindset of just making the world a little bit better for a specific user every day is probably not going to cut it. So there are two mindset shifts that I want to introduce to you. The first is focusing on outcomes. So traditionally, design practice was all about the product. So at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, design was really just about making beautiful things, right? Making functional things. With the emergence of the digital economy, design has expanded and has become about experiences. And so creating something like Facebook is arguably an experience design problem. Starting now and going forward, I think it's going to be incredibly important to actually consider outcomes. So to think about, say, SDG number 16 and say, how do we actually align the business, the experience, and the product of something like Facebook to the outcomes we seek in the world? It's not enough just to say that we want to create community. We have to align our purpose with our business model, with the outcomes that we seek in the world in a way that becomes a virtuous cycle rather than the destructive cycle that we have today. Second, this idea has been alluded to multiple times today, but the shorthand I might offer is just that of shared value. So how can business operate through the lens of creating shared value, not only for its customers or consumers, as we might call them, the business itself, but also society more broadly? So what are the three pillars then of humanity-centered design, and how is it different? What do we need to do differently if we are to create the future that we actually want to live in? First, we have to consider a broad range of stakeholder interests. So we can't just look at the end user of the product or the consumer in the business. We need to consider society more broadly, as I've said, but also we need to consider the broad range of stakeholders that are impacted by a given decision. Number two, we need to approach systems holistically. So the example I just gave you was just a surface level take on what a service design might be. Systems are really complicated, and increasingly we are not just designing isolated products. And then thirdly, we need to think long term. This is something that we also haven't been very good at in the world of design. We've been very next-gen focused. We've been focused on creating the next big thing. I can't tell you how many projects I've done in my career that have been about the next big thing. And rather than thinking about the next big thing, I might argue that we need to think about the next big change that we need to create in the world. We need to be thinking about outcomes. And so taking a long-term view means inherently changing the dynamic of our practice. It means having different ways of really looking into the future, better understanding how our interventions are going to create both solutions to our most pressing problems as well as potentially new problems themselves, and then working continuously to mitigate those things as we discover them.